Popular media usually filters Detroit through two extremes. You see aerial views of the crumbling Packard automotive plant used to frame the city as a post-apocalyptic wasteland, or you see the shiny, corporate-funded redevelopment of downtown framed as a total recovery. This decay is the visible result of specific policy choices. For decades, redlining and urban renewal projects targeted thriving neighborhoods like Black Bottom, bulldozing thousands of homes and businesses to make way for highways and industrial expansion. When Black Detroiters finally secured the right to buy homes in other parts of the city, the European American population took their tax dollars and industrial jobs and fled to the newly built suburbs. This era of white flight drained the city's resources and left its industrial heart to rot. Today, a new wave of corporate investment is returning to the city center. However, many developers arrive with the assumption that the decades of struggle have left the city empty, treating inhabited neighborhoods as an open playground for large-scale real estate projects. Part of this corporate influx involves rebranding historic areas to appeal to outsiders. Newcomers often design new logos and launch marketing campaigns that attempt to rename places like Core City to West Corktown, effectively erasing the identity of the families who remained during the city's hardest years. Detroit remains a populated, complex canvas. While the physical infrastructure has suffered, the local residents who stayed are the ones now choosing how to fill in the missing pieces of their own communities. Decades of industrial collapse and arson left thousands of neglected lots across the city. Many blocks became a landscape of overgrown brush and the skeletal remains of houses that were never cleared by the city. Local organizers view these vacant spaces as something other than urban waste. For them, these lots represent thousands of acres of local real estate that can be utilized to physically sustain the neighborhood. The recovery of these spaces begins with manual labor. Residents organize their own cleanup crews, hauling away tons of dumped tires and rusted metal debris left behind by a departing industry. However, the earth beneath the debris is often unusable. Years of manufacturing left a legacy of industrial lead and concrete dust in the topsoil, making it unsafe to grow food directly in the ground. To bypass this, farmers create a new layer of organic soil. They collect food waste from local restaurants and manure from the Detroit Zoo, composting it to form a clean, fertile barrier that sits directly on top of the contaminated ground. This work is unglamorous and physically demanding. But creating healthy soil is a prerequisite for a neighborhood to physically support its own people again. With the soil established, the focus shifts to the operation of the farms. These sites provide jobs for neighborhood residents and become social hubs for local families. These farms serve as critical infrastructure within established food deserts. When the nearest grocery store is miles away, a neighborhood plot becomes the primary source for fresh collards, turnips, and mustard greens. Success brings a new set of challenges. As these grassroots efforts make neighborhoods safer and more attractive, property values rise, bringing the immediate threat of gentrification and the displacement of the very people who did the work. In response, residents organize to protect their community identity. They launch neighborhood-led tours to highlight local history and actively lobby against real estate interests that try to rename their streets. These streets carry immense cultural weight. The North End and Core City neighborhoods produced legends like Rosa Parks and the Motown sound at Hitsville, USA, anchoring the city's identity in the exact blocks that developers now want to rebrand. By growing their own food and defending their neighborhood names, residents are asserting a right to the land they survived on. They are ensuring that the people who lived through the city's decline are the ones who benefit from its recovery. This bottom-up approach to city building stands in direct contrast to the top-down vision of the industrial era. A century ago, Henry Ford pioneered a model of mass production that centralized power and wealth in the hands of a few corporate leaders. While these assembly lines once provided a path to the middle class, they also made the city entirely dependent on a single industry. When global manufacturing shifted, the workforce and their neighborhoods were treated as interchangeable parts that could be discarded. These massive corporate structures were transient. The Packard automotive plant was a symbol of progress during its construction, but it became a symbol of abandonment the moment the profit margins disappeared. Out of that abandonment, a decentralized model has emerged. It relies on small-scale community cooperation rather than massive industrial investment, creating a more resilient network of local self-reliance. Discarded spaces are being reclaimed organically across the city. Abandoned recreation centers become skateparks, and industrial walls are covered with grassroots murals, reflecting the people who actually live there. The survival of these neighborhoods shows that a city's health doesn't rely on the whims of a single industry. By reclaiming their own blocks, Detroiters are demonstrating that a community can sustain itself through collective effort, building a new model for resilience from the dirt up.